The Argentavis lived in Argentina around 6 million years ago, patrolling the skies as the largest bird to ever take the air. Surprisingly enough, the Argentavis was far too large to actually fly, so scientists have calculated that it was a master glider, using thermals and updrafts to help it travel vast distances without a single flap of its wings. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Creature Spotlight, a series where I go over many different aspects of the creature in the spotlight. The Argentavis is a creature every Ark player must have, so if you want to grow your skills and all sorts of other Ark related stuff, subscribe now so you don't miss anything. Taming an Argentavis can be challenging if you don't have a plan. However, the Argy is one of the easier tames we'll be going over in the Creature Spotlight. So when I tame Argies, I use this really basic trap, and I strongly recommend you use a trap as well. It doesn't take that much time to make and is reusable, so you can tame the Argies you want and begin to breed them if you wish. To remain as safe as possible, I recommend luring the Argy into the trap by using a pteranodon. If you build this trap right, you'll be able to fly your pteranodon through the gap, leaving the Argy inside. If you're solo, you can land the Terra just outside the closed gate, jump off, and run around to close the other gate. If you're with two people, this becomes infinitely easier since one person can stand near the open gate and close it when the Argy is inside. To build this trap, all you'll need is 3 stone dino gateways and 2 reinforced dino gates. When I build the trap, I make absolutely sure there's enough space to fly my pteranodon through, since I do like to be safe when taming. I recommend testing it out before you start taming so you don't lose a pteranodon in the process. Something really simple that I've been doing to ensure the Argy doesn't take any damage from other predators while it's unconscious is placing spike walls around the outside of the trap, with a tiny little pathway for me to walk through so I can check on the Argy if it needs anything. It's important to put a bit of space between the trap and the spike walls so that Carnos or other large creatures don't clip through the spikes and begin attacking the Argy. This will keep your taming effectiveness high, as well as ensuring the Argy survives the taming process. The Argy should definitely be one of the first few tames you get, and I'll explain why shortly, but because of that, you'll only probably have access to a crossbow and some trank arrows. This is totally fine for taming the Argy, since you'll only need 26 trank arrows for a level 150. Even if you're playing with official settings, you won't need to feed it any narcotics if you're using raw prime meat or above, since its torpor drops so slowly, at a rate of about 1 torpor per second. So essentially, once it's knocked out, has the food in its inventory, and is protected from predators, all you'll have to do is wait for it. If you're using regular raw meat, you'll need over 120 narcotics to keep it knocked out, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we've got the taming process out of the way, I'd like to talk about what makes the Argentavis such a powerful and useful creature for your day-to-day tasks on the Ark. Probably the most useful function of the Argy is its ability to carry creatures with its talons. You'll hear lots of players talk about how they use the Argy to carry an ankylosaurus around to collect metal, and frankly, this is precisely what I use the Argy for on a day-to-day basis. It's possible to collect loads of metal as a solo player by dropping the Anky next to metal nodes, collecting the metal, then jumping back on the Argy and picking the Anky up again. This can be streamlined into a faster and easier process by bringing a friend. One person to pilot the Argy and the other to pilot the Anky, essentially allowing you to fill up the Argy's weight capacity, sometimes without even having to land before heading back to base. Collecting metals certainly isn't the only use Argies have though. Overall, they have a really good weight stat that can help you collect many different resources. Not only do they have an impressive weight stat, but they take black pearls, crystal, metal ingot, obsidian, organic polymer, crafted polymer, and stone for 50% weight. Argies are also pretty powerful and can take out most of the wild creatures you'll see. It's important to have a creature like this, since survivors are generally very fragile in comparison to some wild dinos. While Argies are really good for basic protection, they get the rapid regeneration buff when they consume a corpse. Rapid regeneration buff allows the Argy to regenerate health and stamina at an alarming rate. However, I couldn't find any information on precisely how many points are regenerated per second. I've heard that you can actually utilize this buff in order to tame an Argy in just a few minutes. You're supposed to be able to drag a corpse to the Argy once it takes enough torpor damage. However, after around 12 attempts, I was unable to get the Argy to eat the corpse while it tried to flee. If you want to try this for yourself, bring a magnifying glass to keep your eye on its torpidity for timing purposes. The Arc Wiki mentions knocking it out before the regeneration buff has passed, but again, I've not been able to replicate this for myself. I imagine it could be possible if you have two people, one to continue tranking the Argy while the other drags over the corpse. Have the Argy eat the corpse before it starts trying to flee, and have both individuals shoot trank darts or trank arrows into it during the rapid regeneration buff as quickly as possible. If any of you have gotten this method to work, let me and everyone else know how you did it, because honestly, I'm dying to know if it's possible. Anyway, are you ready for some rapid fire Argy facts? Argies are related to storks and modern day vultures like condors. Unlike modern vultures like the condor or turkey vulture, the Argentavis was most likely a hunter. Argies were so heavy that they likely couldn't have taken flight from the ground. Instead, they might have simply opened their wings if there was a strong enough wind to provide them with the lift they needed to get off the ground. The Argy's saddle can be used as a smithy, but only to craft items. Repairing items is not an option. Argies can pick up survivors and other small creatures in its beak using its tertiary attack. The Argy saddle unlocks at level 62. Argentavis magnificens was part of an extinct group of predatory birds called the teratorns, which translates to monster birds. Let me know if there's anything I missed about the Argentavis. This is by far one of the most useful tames in the game, and I hope I've helped you get the most out of it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you so much for your time today. We'll see you in the next video.